Mark is coming on. All right, we're now broadcasting. I will make the requisite announcements that the Steamship Authority is making an audio and video recording of today's meeting. And if there is anyone else making a recording, there are 3 attendees. If they could let me know by raising your hand or pressing *9 on your keypad. And if you do that, I will recognize you, but seeing no one.
Julian's on the attendee side, so you need to move him over to.
Thank you. Okay, there's Julian. Great. Oh, Bob, I'm going to put you back out there.
Jones.
Remove. Sorry, hopefully you went back. I may have, he's going to have to call in again. And in response to Governor Baker's executive orders concerning the necessity to conduct public meetings in line with social distancing guidelines during the current state of emergency involving the COVID-19 pandemic, all task force members are participating remotely in today's meeting because their physical attendances today would be unreasonably difficult. All task force members are participating in the meeting by the Zoom video conferencing app, and all members will be clearly audible to each other. So the first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the task force October 22nd, 2020 meeting in public session. Is there any discussion, or do I hear a motion?
Move approval.
I'll second Leon's motion.
Right. And because we're by Zoom, we have to do it by roll call vote. Mr. Brathwaite?
Brathwaite, aye.
Mr. Brown?
Brown, aye.
Mr. Cahill?
Cahill, aye.
Mr. Chattonover?
Chattonover, aye.
Mr. Davis?
Davis, aye.
Mr. Rosen?
Abstain, I was not present.
Okay. And Mike Santoro is not with us yet. Mr. Cederholm?
Aye.
Mr. Suso?
Suso, aye.
Mr. Vercruyze?
Cruzy, abstain.
All right. At the last meeting, there was a suggestion that we devote this entire meeting to the issue of freight. And we put that on the agenda for the discussion of freight transportation for the islands of Martha's Vineyard. And one of the first documents that I provided for everyone was a freight survey that the Steamship Authority had conducted in 1997, which broke down the island's major freight shippers, types of commodities carried, and distribution of freight origins and destinations. I thought that would be a good way to get the discussion started. And I'm now opening up the meeting for discussion. Mark Rosen or Bob Davis may want to update that survey, or the task force may want to take that in any direction it would like.
I guess I can start. If the study that was done back in 1997, part of it was to be looking at alternative ports and to determine where freight shippers were coming from, what was the situation, how many shippers we're talking about, that along those lines. Obviously some of this is dated. They're talking about $565 million worth of goods and services, which just inflation rate puts it up close to 900 million. And the economies over on the islands have grown some. So imagine that number is probably north of a billion at this point. So, but the study found that 16% of the trucks that were carrying originated in Rhode Island, or 37% of them originated from Massachusetts locations north and west of Cape Cod, southeast Massachusetts. So there was a large contingent. Part of that is that all the fuel deliveries are coming from Rhode Island, and that's 9% of the total number of trips back in 1997 were part of that. And a lot of the food distribution at that time was situated on the southeast Massachusetts, west of the Cape. So
Has that changed? I mean, is the fuel still coming from Rhode Island? Is it coming from
the
Chelsea?
fuel oil does come from Rhode Island still. As for the fuels,
Yeah, CNG, sorry, Bob, that they come from. Not all the CNG comes from Rhode Island.
LNG.
LNG, excuse me, propane.
So where does Noonan have his business? Is his business in Rhode Island, or is he bringing it down from Chelsea?
They're based in Rhode Island.
Okay.
Back in '97, Stop and Shop was not one of the. They didn't have a store over on the island, I believe. So, Mark, do you know where their warehouse is coming from?
Milton.
I know
Mass.
one, I believe, comes from Vermont. I just know that from when we had the blizzard in Nantucket and the truck's going to come down, but I'm not sure if that's their only one.
I think they have a main one in Milton, off at that roundabout when you get off at 138, I think it is.
All right. If that's all the people have to discuss about that and have a sense of where the freight is coming out and who's providing it.
Steve, John.
Yeah.
Henrik.
Robert, how much has changed in just produce, fresh produce in the last 20 years? You know? Or-
Yeah, we haven't broken down the traffic numbers based on food commodities. It was surprising the 97 study had building materials being a higher percentage of shipments than food products. Is like 35 to 30 or something like that. So 65% of them was either building products or food. About 10% was fuel. So
Yeah. All right, just curious. Thank you.
In the 1997 mainland freight analysis, there was a reference to an agreement between the Steamship Authority and the town of Barnstable.
Yep.
Is that agreement still in force, or what is that agreement?
So the agreement in Barnstable was, at the time, Barnstable was not a voting member of the board, and we were looking to rebuild that facility in 1997. And as part of that, or actually prior to 1997, it was 1992, I think it was. And as part of that, the Enabling Act included language because in lieu of a vote, Barnstable's rep was given veto power over any capital project undertaken in the town of Barnstable by us for $50,000 or more. So they did, as Steve will point out, they did have a vote. It was just spelled VETO. So, that agreement's been modified over the years on a couple of occasions. But where it stands right now, the primary thing is it limits the size of the vessels that can go in there. So the Woods Hole, the MV Woods Hole, when it was built, that was built to 235 feet because that's the limit of the, that's in the Barnstable agreement on the size of a vessel that can go into Hyannis Harbor.
So it doesn't speak to freight, the agreement?
It speaks to the number of trips that can be made. And that's why at earlier task force meetings, we were talking about that we're close, if not effectively at full capacity from Hyannis for Nantucket.
Actually, there were several amendments to that agreement. The original one is 1992, and those limitations are still in effect. The number of trips we can make per day by large boats and by freight boats, and the length of the vessels that can use our Hyannis terminal. I believe in 1997, the last amendment to that agreement pertained to freight traffic for the Steamship Authority of Nantucket, and there were several milestones that the Steamship Authority had to achieve under that. And the authority did in fact achieve all of those milestones by 2004. So it has satisfied all of its obligations with respect to freight service. The last one was to identify a mainland freight facility off of Cape Cod, I believe. And the Steamship Authority in 2004 did identify the State Pier in New Bedford as the potential mainland freight facility, which satisfied its obligations under that agreement. And at that time, with the 2002 amendments to the Steamship Authority's Enabling Act, the Steamship Authority had been given some rights in order to use that facility under the management of the city of New Bedford. But the freight provisions effectively have been achieved, and the ongoing limitations of the agreement are the number of trips per day and the length of the vessels.
Yes.
And that talks about the analysis of mainland freight facility. We had done an analysis, and there, as a practical matter, there are no mainland freight ports that are of any adequacy for our operations except for New Bedford and Woods Hole. Hyannis potentially if we wanted to go from there, but we cannot. And those are the only two practical alternatives to provide any type of freight ferry service for the vineyard.
Steve, has one of the other members joined us?
Yes, Jack Law?
Yes, I'm on.
Yes. I now recognize your phone number.
Thank you. I also want to let you know that Mike Santoro called me, said he couldn't make the meeting. He's up with his father. His father is ill.
Oh, I'm sorry. The next one is the possibility of providing freight ferry service from a mainland port other than Woods Hole. And there are undoubtedly practical limitations to that. And one question is, well, we know at this point it's not possible because there are no facilities in New Bedford that are available. And the question is, do we have a discussion about that possibility without first investigating from the city of New Bedford if they have any plans to develop any type of facility? I know that Doug Brown has mentioned that there are plans to develop the North Terminal, which is north of the Fairhaven Bridge. I know they were looking for money several years ago for that. I don't know what the status is. And I'm wondering whether for our next meeting, the task force might want to invite, which I can do, someone from the New Bedford Port Authority in order to see what the status of that project is.
Well, Steve, I can comment. I have been in touch with Ed Anthers Washburn, who is the port manager, and he said that they have broken ground and they are still on track and expect to be done. I think it's a couple of years out. There's a lot of work there, but it's still happening. And I've alerted Ed that he may be invited to one of our meetings in the near future.
Are you referring to the State Pier?
Well, no, that's the North Port Terminal. The State Pier is actually in worse condition. You know, it's probably got a longer term rehabilitation because it's barely hanging on and the whole bulkhead's falling apart. They thought they were going to replace a bunch of pilings, but now they've realized that the bulkhead itself is failing where the buildings are supported. So they're scratching their heads and rethinking that whole State Pier refix. And I think that the North Terminal will probably come online before the State Pier gets fixed, if you know, just my opinion.
Doug, do you know what that terminal will look like capacity-wise?
I don't know, but I do know that when I talked to Mayor Mitchell a couple years ago, he was hopeful to tie a rail line spur right into that terminal to really make it, really effective.
We're talking like at least 2 years out.
I believe so. I'll look up Ed's email right now and I'll tell you what his timeline was.
Yeah.
In the meantime, disclosure that Ed is the New Bedford representative on our Port Council, for those who may not have known. So
We hope to be out to bid in November, start in January, and be done this time in 2022. We'll lease the spaces out starting in fall or winter 2021. So they're getting there.
Who has control of that facility? Is it the town, New Bedford, or is it private?
Yeah, New Bedford created a port authority, and Ed is the manager of it.
now, State Pier is managed by Mass Development.
Right. But the Northport Terminal will be a city of New Bedford and the New Bedford Port Authority. Of course, then the bridge repair will come into play. They'll get the terminal up, and the next thing will be to look for money to fix that bridge. They have this pivoting bridge, which is oftentimes in disrepair. But I guess if we're only relying on freight, it's not really time critical, although it could cause cost overruns for the freight delivery guys if the bridge is out.
Well, the other issue with the bridge outside of delay, it's the hours for the drivers too, where they might, if they're afraid of the CDL limits, operating hours for a day, and they might not even, it might be a deterrent from them using it.
Good point. It's a possibility. I guess they'll have to work through those issues in the next couple of years if it's going to be viable.
And then the concern, of course, is if the bridge isn't operational, which side of the bridge the vessel ends up getting, stuck on, so to speak. So you're muted, Doug.
Sorry. I would guess that if it gets to be a critical problem, they would just leave the bridge open and the roadway traffic would have to be diverted around. I don't know that, but I'm just saying if this port is really viable, that might be what they do.
I read in one of those reports that the mayor of New Bedford is unwilling to accept municipal waste from the islands. Is that still the case?
No, he was, oh, sorry, Steve, if you want to go ahead.
I think that was when there was exploration of using the State Pier.
Right.
And that didn't have to do with the North Terminal. The City of New Bedford has a vision for the State Pier that is much more pedestrian friendly. They want to have events there and shows there. And I think it's fair to say that the mayor was not pleased with the idea of having a freight service from the Vineyard, which would only result in taking garbage to New Bedford. If garbage were one aspect of a larger freight service, I think he'd be more amenable. And certainly if it were going to the North Pier, that's something different from going to the State Pier.
Is there a time difference between the location of two piers coming to the island? Is one closer than the other?
Yes, the State Pier is closer. And then the North Terminal is farther up. I wouldn't say it's probably more than 15 minutes.
Right.
But the issue is if the bridge is stuck closed, open for vehicular traffic, which means it's closed for vessel traffic, then you have vessels stuck on either side of it. They can't get through. So it was not our ideal location back in the early 2000s. The State Pier was south of that bridge. But since then, the State Pier has deteriorated to the point where I think the place where the ferry service took place in 2000, 2001 is now condemned. So
There was reference to timing the steamship trips with the pier is opened at certain times of the day in the schedule. Is that still correct?
the bridge,
Yes.
yes, I believe the bridge is still, it is on a timetable. So one can coordinate, if everything goes well, the trips with the bridge schedule.
What pier is Ralph Packer using?
He is also north of the bridge, I believe. And,
Is it property?
I'm sorry, his own property.
He-
Yes, Ralph has his own
Yes,
property.
he is north of the bridge.
So, one question we talked about, or one issue we talked about in the last meeting was there's one side of the mainland, which is, say, New Bedford in this example, is part of the puzzle. But the other part of the puzzle is what can the Vineyard take on in terms of freight coming and going from another location? And maybe Bob or Steve, can you talk to what are our limits there?
Well, we've already gone through the fact that if we were going to increase service during the summer, it would be at this point limited either to increasing the Sankaty's trips, that's only operating on schedule 3 round trips a day, Monday through Friday, increasing that for later in the afternoon, early evening, or also on weekends. All the other vessels we have are currently in full service.
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt, but what I was referring to is, let's suppose, 2 years, 3 years out, we're really seriously considering New Bedford coming in and taking some of that freight traffic. What kind of openings would we have on the island here to allow that to occur in the course of a day?
We have some openings at the Vineyard Haven Terminal early in the morning after the vessels depart for their first trips during the day, because both slips are occupied at night by vessels that are berthed there. But after you have the first vessel leaving at 5:30 in the morning, you have some windows of opportunity until around, let's say, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning, where all 5 of our vessels are in operation. And then also beginning in the late afternoon to the early evening, you have some windows of opportunity for another vessel to use that slip to dock, unload, load, and leave. We could fit that within the schedule, but those are really the only opportunities through the operating day.
And that's with both ports, OB and Vineyard Haven.
Yeah.
Well, you have to have a schedule that assumes that O+ is going to be shut down due to sea conditions, because often it is. So if you're going to have a reliable operating schedule, you have to have everything coordinated so all of it can leave from Vineyard Haven.
So are we talking on our end, 5 boats, additional boats at capacity periods? Or are we talking more than 5?
Well, one of our vessels sailing from New Bedford would be able to make 3 round trips in a 18-hour operating day.
But not at optimal times.
So their operating schedule would be similar to Nantucket. So if you looked at Nantucket's schedule, that would be similar to the transit time, turnaround time, et cetera. So if you wanted the boat to arrive at 7:30, you would probably leave New Bedford around 5:15.
Yeah. Interesting.
Can I ask a question? Mr. Davis, are you thinking in terms of trying to plan around a steamship authority providing a freight service? Is that your first thought, or would you be still leaning towards an independent carrier? Have you given that thought?
So right now we don't have the vessels to be able to do it. I'm just using the references to what the sailing times our vessels make, and back when we had Haviti run the service, their vessel was actually, I think, a little bit slower than ours, but basically about the same.
I mean,
Has anybody approached Packer?
I'm sorry, what?
Has anybody approached Ralph Packer about doing it?
With
That was
barging?
discussed a couple of meetings ago, that currently with his doing the work with the Cape Wind, he wouldn't be able to do something for about 4 to 5 years. That came at one of our first meetings.
Okay.
But it probably would be a good idea to invite Ralph to one of these meetings and see what his plans are. He can take trucks on his barges if he wants to maintain just barges. And the idea of bailing trash to carry it off island would be a great reduction of that type of freight on our vessels and open up space for other freight and possibly some more islanders to get off on excursion travel.
Would the Steamship Authority be open to taking multiple vendor rental cars through Packer?
We have in the past, we had space ourselves. I know that was an issue several years ago, prompted litigation with Ralph because he was doing it without asking for our permission. That would have to be something that we'd have to look at. The rental cars are something which can be taken by us during off hours at and subsidize all of the other aspects of our service that the islanders need. And that's a question for me personally as to whether we want to. I don't mean to say it would be the cream of the freight, but it's something that we can do certainly ourselves and have it subsidize other parts of our operation. I think the better part for a barge service would be solid waste, because if you can get it on his barges one way or another, either by trucks where you don't have to have drivers going back and forth, and you can get it to New Bedford. And I think as Jack said last meeting, all of the garbage trucks now from the vineyard go by way of New Bedford, one way or the other, whether they're going to Seamouse or whether they're going to Crapo Hill.
Right.
And to me, that would be the least controversial additional service that the authority could have, certainly from an alternative port than Woods Hole, and is also the type of freight that the Woods Hole and Falmouth residents least want to have going through their community.
Is it possible, I don't know the logistics of this, is it possible to, using the roll-off trucks to pick up a can at the refuse district and then drive onto a barge and drop it off on the barge so you don't have, and then pick it up at the other end with another roll-off truck? Or is that just way too complicated?
That's exactly, I think Ralph has done that in the past in his own facilities. He may have enough space in Vineyard Haven to have cabs stationed there and some trailers. And he also may have space at his New Bedford facility to do that.
He does have space in both places. They're 100-yard trailers, and you could probably put 10 trailers on that barge, and they could stage them in New Bedford and have somebody on the other end just go and dump them and bring them back both ways. It kind of really makes sense.
Yeah, but you don't know what's going to be happening with Vineyard Wind too with that space. That's why it's good to have him on a call, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
I will say that when I talked to Mr. Packer a couple of years ago, he was very willing to consider the barging the baled trash, because a lot of his business, I guess, at that time was bringing over modular homes, which is a good fit for barging.
Yeah.
So he was bringing a lot of that over and backhauling what he could, but I guess at that time he was willing to consider the baling of the trash. Has there been any progress on a baling facility over there?
Here, yeah, I think that Edgartown, I think, is looking at doing it. I think that wasn't that in the, Doug, wasn't that in the proposal at the expansion of the refuse district to do bailing?
You'd have to ask Jim, maybe he remembers. I had to recuse myself because I represent them. So I didn't pay attention, to be honest. Maybe Jim remembers.
That wasn't part of their proposal. mean, from the reports, reading the reports that we were sent, they were thinking of doing it at the Bruno's facility. And one
Doing
thing
the
that I
bail, but I
also-
mean, they were planning on having it bailed somewhere on island, right?
Yes.
That was my question, was they going to bail it? So if
What-
they bail it and it goes to Bruno, could Bruno's trucks put it on the barge? That would be the next question,
Mhm.
as a way of getting it across.
There was also reference to the, when the sand pit on the island closes, where is the sand going to come from? And that would, I assume, be Ralph bringing sand from the mainland here. I don't know when that would happen, but that would be a incentive to have a full barge going over and bringing sand back.
How deep is that hole now?
I don't know. There was no date, but there was reference to the sand pit closing sometime, which that was a number of years ago that was written. So I don't know. I don't know if anyone knows it has any information about that.
Well, that'd be
That-
ironic.
that's
It's
how-
like Coles to Newcastle. Yeah.
So one of the questions would be if the trash haulers are one of the few trucking companies going to the island that are full in both directions. Where, you're looking at a food truck goes over full, basically comes back empty unless it has the returns. And if the trash is being barged, is the aggregate firewood or whatever it is that's being backhauled on the trash trip going to be barged as well?
I think, just throwing it out there, I think there's going to be enough trash for everybody. So just using the barge to reduce some of it would probably be helpful, and then the trucks can still backhaul.
There's quite a bit
I
of,
don't know if they backhaul everything. They do backhaul some, but the thing with bailing is storage. It's live stuff. So usually they put it in trailers every night, so nothing is on the ground. When you bail trash, you have to store it somewhere where there's no rats and seagulls and all that stuff. So that becomes a problem too.
although when the study that Tetra Tech did for us indicated that there is one of the other benefits for the bailing is that CMAS could then store those bales and use those, I think I mentioned last time, in off-peak times to burn when they're not getting as much refuse.
I get that for CMAS. I'm talking about Bruno,
Yeah.
where they store it here.
Aren't they wrapped though? Weren't they going to bail them and then wrap them with plastic?
Yep, they do.
Can we
I
go
think
back to?
we can invite Ralph to a meeting.
Yeah, I think that'd be smart. Going back to New Bedford for a minute, Robert and Steve, why didn't things work out the first time we tried having more freight come from New Bedford?
Oh, there are so many reasons.
Well, summarize, humor me with a summary.
I think George Leontire personality was a big issue of that. And he seemed intent only on getting New Bedford in the newspaper every day. And he tried to fight every effort that the Steamship Authority made. The other aspect is that a freight service from New Bedford is more expensive than freight service from Woods Hole. As Bob said, it would be a 2-hour and 15-minute trip. It would be the same as length as Nantucket service, and therefore you would be paying Nantucket prices for that, even if the Steamship Authority were to provide it. And so you have some economics which are problematic, and wherever there are economics, you needed goodwill between the neighbors, and George Leontire was not going to allow that. And that's a subjective opinion, but I spent a good portion of 3 years defending the Steamship Authority under repeated attacks from Mr. Leontire. He didn't seem as much interested in the long-term interests of any of the communities. It just more political issues.
Is he still active today?
Not in New Bedford. He was the friend of the then Mayor Calise, and who did not win re-election. I would say that the 2 mayors in New Bedford who have succeeded him have been terrific. Jonathan Mitchell is absolutely a first-rate person.
Mhm.
And one would have to talk about economics, financials, logistics. There are significant issues with having freight from New Bedford, and
And Steve, I'm sorry.
no, that's all.
And I was in the reservation department when we did the trial, John. And one of the issues the shippers had is that the frequency of trips. So a round trip takes 5 hours.
Yep.
And if I have a trip out of New Bedford and you're longer at sea, so you're more susceptible to cancellations. So I don't have a place in line in Woods Hole where if you have a trip cancel, there's 2 or 3 other trips right near it, compared to I'm basically stuck by myself. And how do I get in the mix into Woods Hole for that trip? So that's one of the issues. And the other one is, am I going to wait 2.5 hours for the trip to go back to New Bedford, or can I go right from the Vineyard to Woods Hole on the next available boat? So it's, net operating time.
Is the dynamic in Nantucket similar to the dynamic that could happen out in New Bedford in terms of those issues? Length of time, cost, limitations on problems?
To make it work would be to have the shippers ship their trucks like we do in Nantucket. So they're not tying up their driver for 2.5 hours on the boat when it goes. So they have someone put on the boat, or we put it on, and then someone meets the boat on the other end. So that works well with the shippers there on the Nantucket. That would be something that would help facilitate the adoption by the shippers.
I think
Keith?
Keith has his hand raised.
You have to unmute yourself.
I don't mean to oversimplify or belittle the opinions of the folks who live in Woods Hole and Falmouth, because there are partners in this. But this is piggybacking off of John's question, has there been a reason for moving freight to New Bedford, given besides the traffic in Woods Hole? Meaning, is there a financial reason? Is there a logistics reason? Is it somehow easier? Is there any reason it's been given? Because I'm not hearing any.
I mean, other than the impact on the lives of people in Falmouth, you mean?
Well, I think,
Yeah.
if I could just comment on that, I think what happened was when we started the 5:30 boat, I don't think there was enough notice given to the neighborhood, and they kind of woke up to it. And I think what happened is now you've awakened a group of people that are starting to look at the fact that this is a growing situation, and it's going to continue to grow. And it started a few people thinking, how far will it grow, and what will be the end of the growth, and how much capacity does Woods Hole really have? And they're questioning whether or not we're really already at that capacity. So the idea is that we got to get a plan together for what the real long-term future is, because if we're starting a 5:30 boat now, what's going to happen in a few years? Are we going to start a 4:30 boat, then a 3:30 boat, and a 2:30 boat? And it's a tough location for unlimited hours. So if we're at the point now where we got to go to 5:30, what's next? That's why we're asking for what's the plan for the future.
Entirely reasonable question.
Yeah.
If it's still true that half of the freight comes from off Cape, it makes a lot of sense to catch that freight that's coming from, south of here and send it to New Bedford. I mean, the economics would have to work out. I mean, there'd have to be subsidies so that the island ratepayers aren't bearing the full cost.
Right. It just seems as though Woods Hole is a natural place because it is closest, in the same way that the Nantucket goes to Hyannis and not Woods Hole, because I don't know the economics particularly well. I dropped my econ major about half a year ago, but it would sure as heck seem that the most expensive part of the voyage from warehouse to home as a consumer good is the ferry. And so it seems as though if we make the ferry time less, correct me if I'm wrong, if we make the ferry time less, it more than compensates for adding driving time. Am I correct in that analysis? To a point, of course, but. if we can reduce a mile on over C, even if it means we have to add a mile driving, it seems like that's a trade we're willing to make in terms of finances. Am I wrong in that assumption?
I think we had another study done back in 1999 from Cambridge Systematics. We should look up. They did an analysis of the net cost of freight coming from New Bedford and coming from Woods Hole. The savings to the truckers in coming from New Bedford was that they did not have any wear and tear in their vehicles coming over the road from New Bedford to Woods Hole. So I think they took that into account as opposed to just having them sit on the ferries. But that's all part of the equation, as well as the reliability of the service of New Bedford that Mark was talking about, and the less frequent trips, so that if there is one trip canceled, you can't just go on the next trip that's 15 minutes or a half hour later from New Bedford.
The way to make that trip more attractive is if you have it arrive in Vineyard Haven before the trip in Woods Hole arrives. So if it left, say, at 3:30, it gets in right after the 5:30 boat leaves Vineyard Haven. I mean, it fits in that slot, and that might attract people. Because, you know, especially the multi-stop food trucks that deliver to the restaurants, the UPS type things where they want to get in and out of the roads quickly.
And just so, for that pilot program that we ran with Havidi, we made the freight rates the same as whether they were traveling from New Bedford to the Vineyard or from Woods Hole to the Vineyard. So that way it wasn't driving the traffic out because, to one port versus the other because of the cost of that trip, the direct costs that we were charging. But you know, obviously there's other costs in terms of the time on the driver for the drivers and the like. And unlike Nantucket, we don't have enough real estate in Vineyard Haven to have trucks there. So Nantucket, they don't necessarily meet the boat that they'll be there at some point within an hour or so. Over in Vineyard Haven, we don't have enough real estate to be able to accommodate any. They'd have to be meeting the boat if they were to go without a driver.
And then
Mark?
one understanding is that a lot of people think that the driver who goes to the island, that's the only thing they're doing that day. A lot of times the driver will do their run on the island and then get the truck ready for the next day. So that's also factored into the organization's transportation plan as well. So they're trying to get them off as quick as they can.
The other question I had was, what's the limitation on the amount of trucks that actually can pass through Vineyard Haven in the off season? I know that seems to be one of the issues, because like you said, you don't have parking spaces for them. So what is our capacity? Are we at that level at that point now?
During the off season?
Yeah, during the off season, are we reaching the capacity of getting, you can only have so many boats come in and out because you only have the 2 slips. What is our capacity? Are we at it now, bringing trucks to the island? I know we need our fuel trucks. You're running what, 1 hazardous truck a day coming to the island?
Right
Or
now,
running 2?
we'll be going to 2. If we're not 2 now, we will be shortly.
Because that was one of
Are
the
you
issues.
talking during the summer or during the winter?
During the winter. I know in the summertime we have both. We have Oak Bluffs and Vineyard Haven. In the wintertime we just have Vineyard Haven. So that's the only port that people can come into, because as you know, back several months ago there was an issue about the amount of fuel that's on the island, and we only have a 3-day supply in the wintertime, where Nantucket has more storage than we have on the island for fuel, both propane and oil, and so that's an issue to make sure we get enough fuel to the island. So if you're running the 2 hazardous trucks, I mean, that probably will get enough for us to survive.
Yeah, so the schedule for 2020 and 2021 was that there would be two vessel, the container would make 2 hazardous trips from Woods Hole to the island, Monday through Friday. There's an extra one that's added on Wednesday. That actually is accommodates off-island a shipper from on the island to go off island and come back.
I just throw out another crazy idea. With if there was some kind of a rig offshore of the vineyard that had a pipe run to it, all you'd need is a place where one of these large tankers could pull right up and pump fuel right directly into a reserve tank. And this wouldn't have to be a real port. It just could be any available land where you could build some fuel capacity, and you could just have that ship come right up and just fill that tank directly.
The issue there is the propane is all stored at the airport, which
Well, I'm
is in the
just
middle of
thinking-
the island.
Right.
And you'd have difficulty, I think, with the town of Vineyard Haven putting an LNG facility there to allow, because I know that they gave, I think Rhymes has some kind of storage in Vineyard Haven, but it's nowhere near the port.
Right.
Oh, it's in the pit
Yeah.
over by the Vineyard House.
In the
Well, I
end,
have no idea what I'm talking about, but it seems like
I
something that
think
would
from
be
an oil
practical.
point of view, I think Packer has facilities right there at his facility to
No.
store some fuel oil there.
No, he got rid of all that because the regulations were too much and he wanted to make room for the cruise ships.
Right.
and Doug, Nantucket had that arrangement, and they don't have that anymore.
Oh,
So
really?
do some research and find out what happened, but they used to have a smaller barge come in, and then now they truck it all with the extra storage.
Huh.
But we can look,
Okay.
get someone to talk about that if you'd like.
Just throwing it out there. I mean, I don't know what kind of possibilities there are, but it just
No,
seems-
keep doing it.
Yeah.
you know.
Okay.
I think about 20 years ago, too, my memory is that there was some proposal over on the Nantucket to have some sort of offshore, platform or something in which the truck, a vessel carrying fuel would pull up alongside and pipe it in, but I think it got squashed for environmental reasons as well, so.
Bob, I think you're right. There were big environmental issues also with what they were doing at the town dock. I think they were piping from the town dock even to the airport, but that ran into environmental issues.
So they were pumping from the town dock to Harbor Fuel, which is right downtown.
Yeah.
That's what they were piped out, because I worked for Packer 42 years and I did it all the time. But liability issues, underground lines, all that stuff led to tearing out, just moving it to the airport.
What's happening now is that we're building wind farms out in the ocean, which is going to replace the energy that the fuel oil.
It kind of all leads to Ralph is the biggest answer to it all. He's got the storage on both ends, and it wouldn't involve the steamship at all.
What he has is that he has the ports. He has the port capacity. That's really the key. I mean,
That's it,
you're
exactly.
well, you're talking about an island that has very limited locations where you can put, a place to offload. Whatever locations you can think of, you're going to have somebody who lives next door to it is going to be bitching about it. It's really, the logistics are daunting. I mean, where else
How
could
would
you
you-
put it if you weren't using Packer, and you weren't using the Steamship Authority's facility? Where else on this island could you do it?
You
How
know,
are
maybe
you guys? I would be,
you could request Doug to see if that old pier up in West Chop would be available.
Oh, I am sure they would love that. They would just love that.
if I were you guys, I would be negotiating with Ralph to get a first right of refusal upon any sale of that property. I don't know if it's something you guys want to try to do, but it seems like it's so critical to the vineyard.
Yeah, he'll sell that property. His great grandchildren will be the ones you'll be dealing with.
Well,
Probably.
you never know.
You
Sometimes
never
when
know.
the,
Yeah.
you never know. Sometimes when the old leader goes, the kids sell the place, and it could happen quickly.
Yeah, there is a very significant estate tax in this state. So who knows?
I'm just
Yeah.
saying, it's something you might want to
Yeah.
throw it out there, try to get a first right of refusal, and maybe the kids would go along with it if there was
Yeah.
a good price.
Now, seriously, is there any other place on this island where we could put a freight facility besides Packer's facility and the Steamship Authority in Vineyard Haven? Is there anywhere else? I
Not
don't
that,
know.
not that would be safe harbor. I mean, you
Right.
need to put it in some place where you have control of the winds. And I mean,
Yeah,
you're not going to go into Edgartown Harbor to put it there. And
No.
Oak Bluffs is exposed.
yeah.
So there's no real estate in Oak Bluffs, basically.
Yeah.
So
Hey, we ought to
Has
think about that
anybody-
West Chop Dock again. Who knows?
Doug, I
Has
think you ought to
anybody
take
thought
that on
about-
yourself. I think,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, thank you. No, thanks.
Doug, has anybody thought about Donald the sausage property that's up for sale?
the wood property?
Yeah,
The
that's a good
Sourcey.
thought.
The Sourcey.
The
Dorsey.
sausage property.
Is
That's
that,
quite a bit
I
of
don't know
waterfront.
physically, is that doable there?
I don't
Sure
know.
it is, right? Well, yeah, you can just put a bulkhead and dredge to it. Why not?
That's
You
a
get
great
around
idea,
black
actually.
Is
dog
that the
people.
spot
That's
in
great.
between the harbor and
Bach? Yeah,
Block?
yeah,
Okay.
Bach Park.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Quite a bit of, it's quite a bit of waterfront.
It is.
Yeah,
Enough
but
to
it's not,
put a
how
slip in
deep
there.
is it? How deep is it? What's the depth of it coming to landside?
Well, it's never deep enough. You'd have to dredge, the water to the dock is what you would do. You'd have to dredge. I mean, that's not a big deal, but you're looking for one flip and, trailers in, out, trailers out. I mean, that's the perfect place. If you
Yeah.
remember years ago, wasn't it, the guy used to bring the propane over where the Shamanti used to come in. People never thought it would happen, but I can't remember his name, but he used to bring propane on the boat and dock it right there. From New Bedford years ago.
You have to move the Black Dog ships out of the way and maybe their pier. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know the layout.
Tisbury.
Hmm?
There's limitations on that area in the town of Tisbury in terms of it's is it a DCPC? I don't think, or is it a?
It is.
Oh, yeah.
Vineyard Haven
Yeah.
Harbor is.
oh, yeah, the whole place.
But what you have to do, it's got to be marine related in that
Right.
area right there. And that sure is marine related.
True.
Just a thought.
Does Gannon and Benjamin own there or do they rent from DeSoursey?
They rent from the sausage. So you got that whole piece of property
Right.
from the Black Dog right over to the hotel.
Right.
It's a big piece of property.
True enough.
Anything else on
Pretty
our
good.
agenda we need
Yep.
to do tonight, Steve?
No, I think we pretty much exhausted it. I think at this point, there's a request for us to invite Ralph, and Bob and I can do that for the next meeting. And that discussion will take place before we discuss the New Bedford issue.
Do we want to skip December and do it in January because of the holiday season?
That's fine by me. I don't think
Probably a good idea.
there aren't going to be any quick solutions to this.
You're not kidding.
Can I make a suggestion? When you invite Ralph, can you invite his son, John Packer?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is
That's
there
what
any
we're talking-
value in inviting the New Bedford Airport to a future meeting?
Well, I was going to bring up whether we want to schedule Ralph for one meeting and Ed Antis Washburn for another meeting to get to at least that piece of it as well.
That makes sense.
Good idea. Doug, you're muted.
I was going to just say, I think one guest per meeting would probably be appropriate.
Right.
Should I move adjournment?
Why don't we schedule the next meeting since we're all here?
January of the next year at, oops, wrong one.
6th, 5th.
Thursdays seem to work best because there are people with meetings on Mondays and Tuesdays
And Wednesdays.
and Wednesdays.
You want to do the 14th, the 14th?
7th, 14th? I'm free
Either
on
one
the
is fine.
7th.
Either the 7th or the 14th.
Okay.
Good for me.
Good for me.
Shall we do the 7th then?
7th,
Well-
it works for me.
7th, it works for me too.
Okay. We'll ask Ralph, and if he can make the 14th but not the 7th, then I'll let you know. We'll just leave that flexible based upon our guests' availability.
Good.
Great,
Right.
Same time at 4:30?
Yes.
Yep.
works for me.
Anything else before we adjourn? I think Leon already moved that.
Okay,
I know
happy
one thing is-
Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year.
I think Jim,
Happy Thanksgiving, Mary. Yep, get them all there. Good, Doug.
I'll save it to the 7th. Never mind.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
So,
you.
all those in favor, Mr. Braithwaite,
Brathwaite, aye.
Mr. Brown,
Brown eye.
Mr. Cahill,
Cahill, aye.
Mr. Chattonover,
Chatting over. Aye. Thanks, everyone.
Mr. Davis,
Davis, aye. Have a great
Mr.
holiday, everyone.
Mr.
Same.
Law,
Aye.
Mr. Rosen,
Aye.
Mr. Sederholm,
Seder Hamai.
Mr. Suso,
So aye.
Mr. Vercruz.
For Cruise, aye.
Thank you all, and have a great holiday season.
Thank
Stay safe.
Thank you.
Yeah, you
Happy
too.
holidays, everyone.